The night shift on mining station Kepler 442b was always quiet. Too quiet for most people. But Hyun-soo liked it that way. He sat in the communications room watching green numbers scroll across his screens. The room glowed with soft blue light from the control panels. Outside the thick windows, the red dwarf star cast everything in dim orange light. Hyun-soo was the only human working the night shift. The alien crew members preferred to work during the day cycle. The insectoid Thrakari needed bright light for their compound eyes. The crystalline Vorthak absorbed energy better during peak solar hours. So the nights belonged to Hyun-soo. He sipped his coffee and watched the communication logs. Most of it was routine traffic between mining ships and cargo haulers. Supply, requests, weather reports, boring stuff that kept the galaxy running. But tonight something felt different. At exactly 23:47 station time, Hyun-soo heard it. A sound that made him sit up straight and put down his coffee cup. It was buried deep beneath the normal chatter. A rhythmic pattern that sounded almost like singing, like a whale song, but stretched across impossible distances. Hyun-soo adjusted his headphones and turned up the volume. The sound was faint, so faint that the automatic systems had marked it as background noise. But to his ears, it was clearly something more, something intentional. The pattern repeated every 47 seconds, long, haunting tones that rose and fell like music. But music unlike anything he had ever heard before. It made the hair on, his arms stand up. It made his heart beat faster. He started recording the signal and ran it through the basic analysis programs. The computer said it was just cosmic interference, random noise from dying stars or solar flares. But Hyun-soo knew better. This was too organized, too purposeful. The communication room door slid open with a soft hiss. Dae-ho walked in carrying a security report tablet. The security chief looked tired. His dark hair was messy from running. His hands through it during the long shift. "Hey, Hyun-soo, everything quiet tonight?" "Actually, no. Listen to this." Hyun-soo played back the recorded signal through the room speakers. Dae-ho tilted his head and listened for 30 seconds. Then, he shrugged. "Sounds like static to me. Maybe a problem with the relay array?" "No, this is different. Listen to the pattern. It repeats exactly every 47 seconds. Dae-ho listened again but shook his head. "Equipment malfunction, probably. You know how old this gear is. The mining company buys the cheapest stuff they can find." Before Hyun-soo could argue, the door opened again. So-young entered the room reading from a data pad. The xenobiologist looked up when she heard voices. "What are you two talking about? I could hear you from the corridor." "Hyun-soo thinks he found alien music," Dae-ho said with a grin. So-young raised an eyebrow. "Really? Let me hear." Hyun-soo played the signal again. So-young listened carefully, her head tilted like she was concentrating hard. But after a minute, she shook her head too. "I do not hear anything unusual, just background radiation, maybe some interference from the mining operations. But the pattern, Hyun-soo, I study alien life forms for a living. If this was biological communication, I would know it." Hyun-soo felt frustrated. How could they not hear it? The pattern was so clear to him, so obvious. But he could see in their faces that they thought he was imagining things. "Maybe you should get some sleep," Dae-ho suggested gently. "These long night shifts can mess with your head sometimes." After they left, Hyun-soo sat alone in the glowing communication room. He put his headphones back on and listened to the signal again. It was still there, still repeating its haunting pattern every 47 seconds. He opened the station personnel files on his computer. Maybe someone else would understand. The alien crew members were all experts in their fields. Surely one of them would hear what he was hearing. But when he contacted them, the responses were all the same. The Thrakari communications officer buzzed something about human hearing defects. The Vorthak engineer sent back a message saying, The signal did not register on their crystalline resonance detectors. Even Commander Vextar, the reptilian saurian who ran the station, dismissed it completely. "Human Officer Hyun-Soo, you will stop wasting station resources on phantom signals. Focus on real communications traffic." Hyun-Soo turned back to his screens feeling defeated. Maybe they were right. Maybe he was just tired and hearing things that were not there. But as he sat in the quiet room, the signal came through his headphones again. This time he noticed something new. The pattern was not exactly the same each time. There were tiny variations, little changes in pitch and timing, like someone was trying different ways to get a message across. His heart started beating faster again. This was not equipment failure. This was not cosmic noise. This was someone trying to communicate. Hyun-Soo looked at his screens showing the communication logs from across the galaxy. Millions of signals flashing between thousands of worlds. Trade agreements and news reports and personal messages traveling faster than light through the quantum network. But buried underneath all of that organized chatter was this one lonely signal, this cry for help that only he seemed able to hear. He made a decision. Even if everyone else thought he was crazy, he was going to find out where this signal was coming from, and more importantly, who was sending it. Hyun-Soo opened a new file on his computer and started typing. Unknown signal analysis. Day 1. Then he settled back in his chair and began the long process of trying to decode a message that might be traveling across impossible distances to reach him. Outside the window, the red dwarf star continued its slow rotation. The mining operation hummed along as usual, and somewhere in the vast darkness between the stars, something was calling out into the void. Only one person was listening. 3 days passed since Hyun-Soo first heard the strange signal. Every night shift, he listened more carefully. Every night, the pattern became clearer in his mind. The signal was not random noise. It was definitely communication. He had started keeping secret notes in his personal data files. The signal came from the same direction every time. Using the station navigation computers during quiet moments, Hyun-Soo traced the source. It was coming from the void sector. The void sector made every spacefarer nervous. It was a region of space that all the galactic civilizations avoided. The gravitational fields there were unstable. Energy storms happened without warning. Ships that went into the void sector usually never came back, but someone or something in that dangerous place was trying to talk. Hyun-Soo was running new analysis programs on the signal when the communication room door opened. Tai-Jin walked, in carrying a toolkit. The engineer looked around the room with suspicious eyes. "Commander Vextar wants me to check all the communication equipment," Tai-Jin said. "He thinks there might be malfunctions causing false signals." Hyun-Soo felt his stomach drop. If Tai-Jin found his secret recordings, he would get in serious trouble. But the engineer was also Korean. Maybe he would understand. "Tai-Jin, before you start working, can you listen to something?" The engineer stopped unpacking his tools. "What kind of something?" Hyun-Soo played the signal through his headphones and handed them to Tai-Jin. The engineer put them on and listened for 2 minutes. His expression changed from boredom to confusion to interest. "That is very strange," Tai-Jin said slowly. "It sounds almost like music, but also like math." "You hear it too!" Hyun-Soo felt relief flood through him. "Everyone else says it is just static." Tai-Jin listened again, his engineering mind working on the problem. "The pattern has mathematical progression. See how the tones follow a sequence? And the timing is too precise for random noise. Can you help me boost the receivers? I want to get a cleaner signal." Tai-Jin looked toward the door nervously. "Commander Vextar said not to waste resources on phantom signals." "Please, just a small adjustment. No one will notice." The engineer thought for a moment, then nodded. "Okay, but we do this quietly." While Tae-jin worked on the communication array, Hyun-soo went to find Hae-won. The medical officer was in the station library researching alien diseases. She looked up when Hyun-soo approached her table. "Hae-won, I need your help with something. You studied biology on Earth, right?" "Yes. Xenobiology and comparative anatomy." "Why?" "I need to know about Earth animals that use sound to communicate over long distances." Hae-won closed her research files and leaned back in her chair. "That is an interesting question. Whales use low-frequency calls that can travel hundreds of kilometers through ocean water. Some elephants use infrasound to talk across savannas. Bats use echolocation to navigate in complete darkness. What about communication across really long distances, like between planets?" "That would be impossible for Earth animals. Sound needs matter to travel through. Space is mostly empty." Hyun-soo felt disappointed, but then Hae-won continued thinking, out loud. "Unless there are theories about quantum entanglement in biological systems. Some scientists think certain animals might use quantum effects for navigation or communication, but that is still just theory. Could you research it for me, especially about bat communication?" Hae-won looked curious now. "What is this about, Hyun-soo?" He told her about the signal, about how only he seemed able to hear it clearly, about how it reminded him of whale songs but stretched across impossible distances. "Show me," she said. They went back to the communication room. Tae-jin had finished his work, and the signal was much clearer now. Hae-won listened carefully through the headphones. Her eyes grew wide. "Oh my God, this does sound biological. The tonal variations remind me of humpback whale songs, but the frequency range is much wider. And it is coming from the void sector," Hyun-soo added. Both Hae-won and Tae-jin stared at him. The void sector was supposed to be empty. Nothing could survive there. "Are you sure about the location?" Tae-jin asked. Hyun-soo showed them his navigation calculations. The signal source was definitely in the forbidden zone. "This is big," Hae-won whispered. "If there is intelligent life in the void sector, we need to tell the galactic authorities." "I tried. Commander Vexitar ordered me to stop investigating." The three humans looked at each other. They all understood the problem. The alien crew members could not hear what they were hearing. The galactic authorities would not believe them without proof. "We need more data," Tae-jin said. "Better recordings, mathematical analysis of the patterns, and biological analysis," Hae-won added. "If this is really a living creature, we need to understand how it is possible." Over the next few hours, the three worked together in secret. Tae-jin improved the signal reception even more. Hae-won researched everything she could find about biological communication systems. Hyun-soo continued monitoring and recording the mysterious transmissions. By dawn, they had made an incredible discovery. The signal was not just repeating the same pattern, it was changing, evolving, like someone was trying different approaches to get their message across. "Look at this," Hyun-soo said, showing them the frequency analysis. 3 days ago, the signal was simple. Now it is much more complex, like it is learning. Or like it knows someone is listening, Hae-won suggested. That thought sent chills through all three of them. Something in the deadly void sector was not just calling out randomly, it was trying to establish contact, and somehow it knew that someone had finally heard its call. As the day shift crew began arriving, the three humans quickly hid their research. They agreed to meet again the next night to continue their investigation, but none of them could stop thinking about the implications. If there was intelligent life in the void sector, why was it trying to communicate? What did it want? And why could only humans hear its desperate call? The signal continued throughout the day, broadcasting its mysterious message into the void, waiting for someone to answer back. 2 weeks had passed since the three humans began their secret investigation. Every night they gathered in the communication room after the alien crew went to sleep. The signal was getting stronger and more complex each day. Hyun-soo had contacted Minji, the station linguist who worked on translation programs for alien languages. She joined their group after hearing the recordings. Her eyes lit up when she realized what they had found. "This is definitely language," Minji said, studying the wave patterns on her computer screen. "Look at these repetitions. These are words or concepts being repeated with small variations." The signal had evolved from simple tones into something that sounded almost like conversation. Long phrases followed by pauses, as if waiting for a response. The team had been trying to send replies, but they were not sure if anything was getting through. Tonight was different. Tonight, Hyun-soo had an idea. "What if we try responding with the same type of signal?" he suggested. "Not human language, but bioacoustic patterns like whales use." Hae-won nodded excitedly. "I found recordings of humpback whale songs in the Earth database. We could modify them and broadcast them back." Tae-jin worked on the transmission equipment while Minji prepared the modified whale song patterns. They chose a simple sequence of rising and falling tones, similar to what they were receiving but clearly different. At exactly midnight station time, they broadcast their response toward the void sector. Then they waited. For 30 minutes, nothing happened. The original signal continued its usual pattern. Hyun-soo began to think their experiment had failed. Then suddenly, the signal stopped. Complete silence filled their headphones for 10 long seconds. The four humans looked at each other with growing excitement and fear. When the signal resumed, it was different, much different. The new pattern was clearly a response to their whale song transmission. The mysterious sender had taken their simple tones and modified them, adding complexity while keeping the basic structure. It was like hearing an echo that had been improved and sent back. "Oh my God," Minji whispered. "It answered us. It actually answered us." Over the next hour, they established a basic pattern of communication. The humans would send a simple acoustic sequence. The sender would respond with a more complex version. Gradually, they were building a primitive vocabulary. Minji worked frantically to create a translation matrix. "I think this pattern means acknowledgement or yes, and this one might mean negative or no. Look how it uses them in context." By dawn, they had established basic communication with whatever was broadcasting from the void sector. More importantly, they had learned something incredible about the sender. "It is huge," Hae-won said, analyzing the bioacoustic data. "Based on the resonance patterns, this creature must be enormous, bigger than any Earth whale by far." "And it is definitely alive," Minji added. "The language patterns show emotional inflection, urgency, like it is trying to warn us about something." The next night, their mysterious contact introduced itself. The name came through as a complex harmonic pattern that Minji translated as closely as she could. "Kalen," she said, "I think that is its name, and it keeps using another word that might mean guardian or watcher." Through patient communication over several nights, an amazing story emerged. Kalen was not just any creature. He was the last surviving member of an ancient species called the Nixari. They were massive bat-dragon creatures who lived in the vacuum of space itself. The Nixari had been guardians of this sector of the galaxy for thousands of years. They watched over the dangerous gravitational fields and energy storms, warning other species away from deadly areas. But now Kalen was alone, and he was dying. More importantly, he was trying to warn the galaxy about a massive disaster that was about to happen. 3 neutron stars, Minji translated as Kalen sent complex astronomical data. "They are becoming unstable. When they collapse together, they will create a gravitational wave that will destroy everything for many light years." Hyun-soo felt cold fear in his stomach. How many light years? The answer was terrifying. 15 light years. That would include 4 major trade routes and dozens of inhabited worlds. Billions of people would die. "When?" Tae-jin asked. Kaylin sent more data. Minji calculated quickly, and her face went white. 72 hours, maybe less. The four humans stared at each other in shock. They had discovered an ancient guardian species, established first contact, and learned about an approaching disaster that would kill billions of people, all in the space of 3 weeks. "We have to tell the galactic authorities," HFY said. "They will not believe us," Hyun-soo replied. "They cannot even hear Kaylin's signals. How can we prove any of this? We have the recordings, the translations, the astronomical data, which they will say we made up. Remember, they think we are just primitive humans who imagine things." Minji looked at her translation work. "Kaylin says his people have been trying to warn the galaxy for months, but no one else can hear their communication frequency. Only humans have the right type of biological hearing." "Why us?" Tae-jin wondered. HFY had been thinking about this question for days. "Our mammalian ancestors, bats and whales, both use bioacoustic communication. Humans evolved from the same genetic line. We kept some of the same hearing abilities. So we are the only ones who can hear the warnings," Hyun-soo said slowly. "And we are running out of time," Minji added. They spent the rest of the night getting more detailed information from Kaylin: star charts, gravitational field maps, precise timing calculations, everything they would need to convince someone in authority that the danger was real. But as dawn approached, they all knew the truth. The galactic authorities would not listen to four humans claiming to talk with an invisible space dragon. They would waste precious time in meetings and committees while the neutron stars moved closer to collapse. If billions of people were going to be saved, the humans would have to find another way. The first rays of the red dwarf star shone through the communication room windows. Somewhere in the void sector, Kaylin continued broadcasting his desperate warnings into space, hoping someone would finally listen and act. Time was running out. The human team spent the entire next day trying to get someone in authority to listen. Hyun-soo sent official reports to the Galactic Emergency Council. Tae-jin contacted the Mining Guild Safety Board. HFY reached out to the Xenobiological Research Institute. Minji sent translations to the Universal Language Bureau. Every response was the same. Insufficient evidence. Requires verification. Unable to confirm source authenticity. The aliens on the station were even worse. Commander Vex-Tar called them into his office that afternoon. The reptilian saurian looked angry, his scales shifting to a darker green color. "I have received complaints about you humans," he hissed. "You are spreading panic about imaginary disasters. This behavior stops now." "Commander, we have real data," Hyun-soo tried to explain. "Astronomical calculations, gravitational field measurements. From an invisible space creature that only humans can hear? Do you realize how ridiculous that sounds?" Dae-ho and So-young had been called to the meeting as well. They sat quietly, while Vex-Tar lectured the research team. "You will cease this fantasy investigation immediately," the commander continued. "Any further unauthorized use of station equipment will result in disciplinary action." After they left the commander's office, Dae-ho pulled Hyun-soo aside. "Is any of this real?" the security chief asked quietly. "It is all real. We have proof." "Then show me." That night, Hyun-soo brought Dae-ho and So-young to the communication room. When they heard Kaylin's voice for the first time, both of their faces changed. The signal was impossible to ignore now. It filled the room with haunting melodies that spoke of ancient wisdom and desperate urgency. "My God," So-young whispered. "How did we not hear this before?" "Your ears were not trained to listen for it," Minji explained. "But now that you know what to hear, it becomes obvious." Dae-ho studied the astronomical data that Kaylin had provided. As security chief, he understood threat assessment. His face grew grim as he read the calculations. "If this is accurate, the gravitational cascade will hit the Kepler system first," he said. We have maybe 60 hours before the shockwave reaches us. And 36 hours before it hits the major trade routes, Tae-jin added. How many people live in the affected zone? So Young asked. Minji had already calculated this. Conservative estimate, 2 billion sentient beings across 4 species. That includes major population centers on 12 worlds. The room fell silent as everyone absorbed the numbers. 2 billion lives, depending on warnings that no one in authority would believe. We have to try the official channels one more time, So Young said. I have contacts at the Galactic Science Academy, but when she made the calls, the response was predictable. The scientists wanted to study the phenomenon for months before making any recommendations. The bureaucrats wanted committee, reviews, and impact assessments. The military wanted threat verification through multiple independent sources. None of them understood that time was running out. That night, Hyun-soo had a long conversation with Kalin. The ancient guardian explained more about the approaching disaster and why it was happening. The 3 neutron stars have been slowly spiraling toward each other for centuries, Minji translated. Natural gravitational decay, but recently, something changed their orbit patterns. What changed them? Hyun-soo asked. Kalin's response was complex and took Minji several minutes to translate. Mining operations, large-scale extraction of quantum materials from nearby asteroids. The mass changes affected the gravitational balance. Tae-jin looked sick. We caused this. The galactic mining operations destabilized the neutron star system. Can it be stopped? Daeho asked. More complex communication from Kalin. Minji worked frantically to translate the technical information. He says there are 3 ancient devices called gravity anchors, she said finally, built by his people thousands of years ago to stabilize dangerous systems. If all 3 are activated at the same time, they can prevent the collapse. Where are they located? Kalin sent coordinate data. Tae-jin pulled up star charts and plotted the positions. His face went pale. They are all in the void sector, deep in the most dangerous areas, and they are hundreds of thousands of kilometers apart. How long to reach them? So Young asked. With our fastest ships? Maybe 18 hours to the first one, but that is if nothing goes wrong. And if the energy storms or gravitational fields don't destroy the ships first, Daeho added. They spent hours analyzing the mission requirements. It would take 3 separate teams flying 3 separate ships to reach all the anchors in time. The navigation would be incredibly dangerous. The ancient technology might not work. And even if everything went perfectly, they would be acting without authorization from any government. This is mutiny, So Young said quietly. If we take ships without permission, we will be criminals. If we don't take ships, 2 billion people die, Hyun-soo replied. They looked at each other around the communication room table. 7 humans making a decision that would affect the entire galaxy. Outside the windows, the stars looked peaceful and eternal. But now, they knew that appearance was an illusion. The universe was a dangerous place, and sometimes civilized procedures were not enough. I can get us 3 mining shuttles, Tae-jin said. They are small but fast, and they have the navigation equipment we need. I can modify the sensor arrays to detect the gravity anchors, So Young added. I will handle route planning and security. Clearance, Daeho said. We need supplies. Food, oxygen, medical equipment, Haewon noted. And communication gear to stay in contact with Kalin, Minji added. Hyun-soo felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. He was the one who first heard Kalin's call. This was his mission now. How long do we have to prepare? He asked. Tae-jin consulted his calculations. The neutron stars will reach critical instability in 54 hours. We need to launch in 12 hours to have any chance of reaching all 3 anchors in time. Then we better get started, Hyun-soo said. As they prepared to leave the communication room, Kalin's voice came through the speakers one more time. Even without translation, they could hear the hope and desperation in the ancient guardian's song. Someone had finally heard his warning. Someone was going to try to help. The question was whether they would be fast enough to prevent the greatest disaster in galactic history. The next 12 hours were the longest of their lives. While the alien crew slept, the 7 humans worked frantically to prepare for their unauthorized mission. Tae-jin and So-young worked together in the shuttle bay, modifying 3 mining ships. They installed additional communication arrays, upgraded the navigation computers, and added emergency supplies. Most importantly, they built a makeshift gravitational resonance device based on theoretical physics from Earth universities. The galactic civilizations stopped using this type of technology centuries ago, So-young explained as she soldered circuit boards. They said it was too crude and unreliable. But crude technology is sometimes the best technology, Tae-jin replied. Simple systems are harder to break. In the communication room, Hyun-soo and Min-ji maintained constant contact with Kalen. The ancient guardian was guiding them through the safest routes into the void sector. His knowledge of the gravitational fields and energy storms was incredible. He has been watching this region for 3,000 years, Min-ji translated. He knows every dangerous current and safe passage. Kalen also provided detailed information about the gravity anchors. They were massive crystalline structures built by the Nixari civilization at the height of their power. Each anchor could manipulate gravitational fields across light years of space. But they need to be activated simultaneously, Min-ji continued translating. If even one fails, the neutron star collapse cannot be stopped. Daeho worked on mission planning and team assignments. The 3 ships would need to separate once they entered the void sector. Each team would race to a different anchor with only hours to spare. Team 1 will be Dongwoo and Yoonji, he decided. They are our best pilots. They get the furthest anchor. Dongwoo and Yoonji were the station's shuttle pilots. They had volunteered immediately when they learned about the mission. Both were young and fearless, perfect for the dangerous navigation ahead. Team 2 will be Daeho and Haiwan, the security chief continued. The second anchor is in an asteroid field. We will need security protocols and medical backup. That leaves Hyun-soo and Min-ji for the 3rd anchor, So-young said, with Kalen to guide them. The 3rd anchor was the most dangerous. It was located near a collapsing star where Kalen himself was stationed. The ancient guardian was dying from cosmic radiation, but he refused to leave his post. Someone needs to help him activate the final anchor, Min-ji explained. He is too weak to do it alone. As dawn approached, the teams made their final preparations. They loaded the shuttles with extra oxygen, emergency rations, and all the communication equipment they could carry. The gravitational resonance devices were installed and tested. But they had one more problem. Commander Vexitar had posted security guards near the shuttle bay. The alien crew was suspicious of all the late-night activity. I can handle the guards, Daeho said. Security override codes and some creative paperwork, but we will only have a small window to launch. At exactly Oro 600 station time, the plan went into action. Daeho created a false emergency alert that drew the guards away from the shuttle bay. The 7 humans rushed to their ships and began pre-flight procedures. They had less than 5 minutes before someone would discover what they were doing. All teams, this is Hyun-soo, he said over the communication channel. Launch in 60 seconds. The shuttle engines powered up with a deep rumbling sound. Through the bay windows, Hyun-soo could see the red dwarf star and the dangerous space beyond. Somewhere in that darkness, Kalen was waiting. 30 seconds, Tae-jin announced, from the control station. Launch authorization? Asked one of the automated systems. Emergency protocols, Daeho replied, using his security codes. Medical evacuation priority 1. It was a lie, but it would buy them enough time to escape the station. 10 seconds, all systems ready. 5, 4, 3, 2, launch. The three shuttles shot out of the bay simultaneously, accelerating toward the edge of the system. Behind them, alarms began sounding on the mining station. Commander Vexitar would be very angry when he discovered what had happened. But there was no time to worry about consequences. They had less than 42 hours to reach the gravity anchors before the neutron stars collapsed. The journey to the void sector took 16 hours at maximum speed. As they approached the dangerous region, the shuttles began encountering gravitational distortions and energy interference. "Stay close to the planned route," Kalen's voice came through the communication system. Minji translated his guidance in real time. "There is a safe corridor between the gravity wells." The space around them was unlike anything they had seen before. Twisted light from distant stars created rainbow patterns across their view screens. Fragments of shattered planets drifted in slow orbit around invisible masses. Energy storms crackled between asteroid fields like lightning. "This place is beautiful," Yunji said over the radio, "and terrifying." "Focus on navigation," Dongwu replied. "One wrong turn, and we get stretched into pasta." As they penetrated deeper into the void sector, the teams began to separate. Dongwu and Yunji veered toward the outer edge, where their anchor waited among the remnants of a dead solar system. Daeho and Haewon headed toward the asteroid field, where gravitational currents moved rocks the size of moons. Hyun-soo and Min-ji continued toward the center of the sector, where Kalen was broadcasting from near a collapsing star. "There," Min-ji said, pointing at their view screen. "I can see him." Kalen was enormous, larger than their shuttle, larger than the mining station. His bat-like wings stretched across kilometers of space, and his dragon-like body glowed with internal energy. But he was clearly dying. Parts of his crystalline scales were dark and cracked from centuries of cosmic radiation. "Welcome, small guardians," Min-ji translated as Kalen's voice filled their shuttle. "I have waited so long for someone to hear my call." The ancient creature guided them toward the third gravity anchor. It was a massive crystal formation floating in the debris field around the dying star. Even from a distance, they could feel its power humming through space. "All teams report status," Hyun-soo called over the radio. "Team 1 at anchor position," Dongwu replied. "Beginning activation sequence." "Team 2 approaching target," Daeho added. "Encountering heavy gravitational interference." The three anchors had to be activated within minutes of each other, or the synchronization would fail. They had practiced the procedure during the journey, but none of them knew if it would actually work. "Beginning final approach," Hyun-soo said. "Kalen, are you ready?" The ancient guardian's response was weak but determined. He had been preparing for this moment for months, conserving his remaining strength for one final act of protection. As their shuttle approached the gravity anchor, Hyun-soo realized they were about to attempt something that no one had ever tried before. Using primitive human technology to activate ancient alien devices and prevent a cosmic disaster that could destroy billions of lives, it was exactly the kind of impossible situation that humans were good at solving. Time was running out faster than anyone had calculated. The neutron stars were collapsing ahead of schedule. Gravitational waves were already beginning to ripple through space, creating dangerous instabilities throughout the void sector. "All teams, we have 18 minutes before critical threshold." Tae-jin's voice crackled through the communication system from the mining station. He was monitoring the neutron star collapse from long distance. "Repeat, 18 minutes." Hyun-soo felt sweat on his forehead despite the shuttle's climate control. 18 minutes to activate all three anchors simultaneously. It would be close. Very close. "Team 1 status report," he called over the radio. "Anchor 1 is responding to activation signals," Dongwu replied. "But the gravitational resonance device is overheating. Yunji is trying to cool the systems, manually." "Team 2 status?" "Anchor 2 is powered up and ready," Daeho said. "But we are taking heavy radiation from the nearby asteroid collisions. Haewon says we can only stay here for another 20 minutes before it becomes dangerous. Hyunsu looked out at Anchor 3 floating near Kalen's massive form. The ancient crystal structure was beautiful and terrifying. It pulsed with energy that made their shuttle's instruments go crazy. Kalen, how do we activate this thing? Min-ji translated his question. The ancient guardian's response came weakly. His body was breaking apart from the stress of staying near the collapsing star for so long. He says we need to connect our gravitational device directly to the anchors. Central crystal, Min-ji translated. But someone has to go outside the shuttle to make the connection. Going outside meant exposure to deadly cosmic radiation and gravitational forces that could tear a human body apart. But there was no other choice. I will do it, Hyunsu said. No! Min-ji grabbed his arm. I am smaller and lighter. Less chance of the gravity fields affecting me. Before he could argue, she was already putting on the emergency spacesuit. The shuttle's airlock could protect her for maybe 10 minutes in this environment. That would have to be enough. 15 minutes to critical threshold, Tae-jin announced. Team 1, what is your status? Hyunsu called urgently. Cooling systems are holding, Yoonji replied. We can activate on your signal. Team 2 ready? For synchronized activation, Daeho confirmed. Min-ji sealed her helmet and checked the portable gravitational device. It was crude technology by galactic standards, but it might be able to interface with ancient Nixari systems. If this goes wrong, tell everyone that we tried, she said. The airlock opened, and Min-ji stepped into the nightmare of space near a dying star. Gravitational fields pulled at her body from multiple directions. Radiation alarms screamed inside her suit. But she pushed forward toward the massive crystal anchor. Hyunsu watched through the shuttle's cameras as she reached the central crystal and began connecting the human device to alien technology that was thousands of years old. The connection sparked with energy that lit up the entire area. It is working, he shouted. The anchor is accepting the interface. But something was wrong. Kalen's massive form was glowing brighter and brighter. His ancient body was releasing the last of his life energy into the gravity anchor system. He is dying, Min-ji said through the radio. Her voice was calm but sad. He says this is how it was always supposed to end, the last guardian giving his life to protect the galaxy one final time. 12 minutes to critical threshold, Tae-jin warned. All teams prepare for synchronized activation, Hyunsu ordered. We activate on my mark in 10 seconds. The 3 human teams, scattered across the deadly void sector, prepared to attempt something that had never been done before. Using primitive, Earth technology to activate ancient alien devices and prevent the greatest disaster in galactic history. 5 seconds, Hyunsu counted down. 4, 3, 2, mark. 3 gravity anchors activated simultaneously across hundreds of thousands of kilometers of space. The effect was immediate and incredible. Gravitational fields that had been building toward catastrophic collapse suddenly stabilized. The neutron stars, moments away from destruction, locked into stable orbits. The gravitational tsunami that would have killed billions of people simply stopped existing. It worked. Dongwoo's voice came over the radio. The gravitational readings are stabilizing. Confirmed, Haewon added. Neutron star collapse has been prevented, but the victory came with a cost. Kalen's massive form was fading, his internal light dimming as his ancient life finally came to an end. Min-ji had made it back to the shuttle and was translating his final words. He says he is proud to have met the small guardians from Earth, she said with tears in her voice. He says humans have the courage to hear warnings that others cannot, and the wisdom to act when action is needed. As Kalen died, something amazing happened. His knowledge, accumulated over 3,000 years of watching and protecting this sector of space, flowed into the human communication systems. Star charts, gravitational data, information about cosmic phenomena that no galactic civilization had ever discovered. "He is giving us everything he knows," Minji whispered. "All the secrets of space that his people learned over millennia." The ancient guardian's body dissolved into energy that spread across the void sector, finally at peace after centuries of lonely vigil. His last gift to the galaxy was not just the prevention of disaster, but the knowledge that would help prevent future catastrophes. When the human teams returned to mining station Kepler 442b, they found everything had changed. News of the prevented gravitational cascade had spread throughout the galaxy. The galactic authorities, who had dismissed their warnings as fantasy, now had to acknowledge that primitive humans had saved billions of lives. Commander Vextar was waiting in the shuttle bay when they landed, but instead of anger, his reptilian face showed something that might have been respect. "The Galactic Council wishes to speak with all of you," he said formally. "It seems your phantom signals were not so imaginary after all." The investigation that followed revealed the truth about human hearing and biological communication across space. Scientists confirmed that mammalian evolution had given humans the ability to detect quantum biological frequencies that other species could not perceive. Hyun-Soo was appointed as the first human cosmic communications specialist. The Galactic Council built him a new deep space listening post, equipped with the most advanced detection equipment in the galaxy, but still requiring human ears to interpret the signals. The Nixari Protocol was established in honor of both the extinct Guardians and the human team that heard their final call. Early warning systems were placed throughout the galaxy, staffed by humans who could detect bioacoustic signals from unknown sources. 6 months later, Hyun-Soo sat in his new listening post, surrounded by screens and sensors that could detect signals from across the galaxy. But the most important equipment was still his own ears, trained now to hear the subtle patterns of cosmic communication. As he monitored the frequencies, listening for new voices calling out across the darkness, he thought about Kalen and the gift the ancient guardian had given them: knowledge, wisdom, and the understanding that sometimes the most important messages come from the most unexpected sources. The universe was full of voices waiting to be heard, and humans, with their primitive but effective hearing, were finally learning to listen. Somewhere in the vast darkness between stars, new signals were beginning to broadcast, and this time, someone would be ready to answer.